Today I'm going to show you how I've taken my stretch periwinkle star pattern and turned it into a Christmas star. Today I'm going to show you how I've taken my stretch periwinkle star pattern and turned it into a Christmas star. Over the past few years, I've made several of the stretch periwinkle quilts, and it's been a fun beginner quilt to make. You can make it really fast. I love how it comes together, and you have 12-inch blocks, and then you can just sew them all together, and then you've got this nice, beautiful either lap quilt or a queen quilt or a king. I've done all sizes with it. Over the years, I've changed the pattern up a little bit, trying to make it a little bit easier because I do a lot of my quilting at home. And when you're using a small sewing machine and you're trying to do quilting around the star, I usually just follow around the star pattern for my quilting, and it's been really, it's strenuous, it's difficult. You have to roll up the quilt and you have to squeeze it through the little opening of the neck of your small sewing machine. And so this last time that I made a quilt, I made it for my mother-in-law's, the purple one. I'm going to be showing you some of the pictures of my periwinkle star quilts that I've made. And the purple one is the one that I did quilt as you go. And so that is what I'm going to show you today, is how to do quilt as you go with the periwinkle stretch star quilt. So to begin with, what we need is one pack of a printed layer cake, or you can use your own fabric. I decided to use some Christmas fabric that I have. That will be for the main part of the star. The next is you'll need 3 1/2 yards of background fabric. I'm using the red right here. The other you're going to need is 1 1/4 yards of quilt fabric for the border, 3/4 yard of quilt fabric for the binding, and 4 1/4 yards of quilt fabric for the backing. So as you can see right here, I have this right here is a stretched periwinkle template that I purchased from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and this is what I use to cut out each of my pieces for my star. And then I also have this 10-inch square ruler. It's also from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. And I use this to trim up the pieces before we sew it together. Okay, so to begin with, we need to cut our 36 stretched periwinkles. So I went ahead and I chose this plaid red and black fabric that has white snowflakes on it. I just love this one. And I cut 18 of these. And like I said, I had yardage of fabric. So I'm going to show you how I did it with my yard. So I take my template and I put it down. So I'm using my swivel mat, which I really just enjoy when I am doing my cutting my pieces for my quilts. Okay, so I have lined up this side of my stretch periwinkle along a straight edge, and I have it folded, so I'm cutting 2 at the same time. Okay, so then I'm just gonna put my blade right up next to the edge of the stretch periwinkle. Then I'm gonna rotate my mat. I'm gonna hold on to my fabric and just bring it around. Just keep it right where it's at. Slide this over so I can see it, and then I'm gonna just cut right against the edge. And pick it up again. Rotate it around. And then cut one more time. Okay, so here I have cut 2 at the same time. Okay, so now I have all 18 of this fabric. This is really adorable fabric. So little kitties and teddy bears and Santas, and it's a black and white Christmas print, and I just love it. So it's fun when you have your different fabric that you've had for years, trying to figure something out to do with it. It's fun that I was able to finally figure out something to do with this fabric that I've just loved, and now I can do something with it. I've probably had this for probably 10 years, and now I'm going to do something fun with it. So I just read on the edge that it's actually from Hobby Lobby. So I don't know, go and check, see if they have some fun Christmas fabric at Hobby Lobby. So now we're going to make our strips. Our strips are supposed to be 13 inches by 5 inches. So I'm going to cut 5 inches wide. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut a few, and then I'll come back and show you how to do the rest. Again, I'm just cutting them 5 inches. Okay, so I have all 3 of my strips on top of each other, and now I'm going to trim off the selvage. I'm going to line up my strip with the black line. I really like the grids on this, so I'm going to hold it down and go across. Okay, and I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to cut 13 inches. So count. Okay, so right there with my 13. Make sure that my ruler is lined up. Again, I'm lining up my black line with the top and with the bottom. Make sure that it's straight. Okay, I'm going to set these aside. Now I'm going to open up. I'm going to open these up, and I'm going to layer them once again. Okay, and then check with my inches. And we did it. They're all the same size. Okay, let's set these aside. You can use these for another project, right? So as you can see here, there's a little wrinkle here, and on this one, I'm getting ready to sew these together. So I am going to go ahead and just go iron these really quick. Sometimes there's like a deep wrinkle, and I'll just give a little spritz. Okay, now what we're going to do is take our stretch periwinkle. We're going to take our strip and lay it down from the point to the side point. And go ahead and pin it. So I like to go ahead and do several at once, and then when I'm sewing, I can do an assembly line of sewing. Now I'm going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam. So when you pause and you hook them together with this little string right here, what you're doing is, it's called chain sewing, and it's helping you to save thread because you don't have a long piece of thread after each one and before each one. So for quilters, this is a technique that we do so that we can save thread and also save time. Okay, Now I'm going to take it and press to the darker material. So the reason why we do that is so that if this is a lighter material like this one is, if you're pressing it over to the dark one, then you won't see it when you have a quilt. If I were to press this over to the white side, then you would most likely see a shadow underneath from the red. So that is why we press to the dark. I'll do that to each of my pieces. If you just press down, you're also setting the seams. So once you've sewn one side on, then now you're going to pin on the other side. And it's okay if you are a little bit over on top and on the bottom. It doesn't matter at this point. All that matters is that we're lined up on the side. Can be generous on the top and on the bottom. So we'll go ahead. Like I said, I like being able to see where my diamond is, a periwinkle. So I'm going to pin all 4 of them together again on the other side, and then we'll go and sew them. So we're doing right sides together again. We're going to sew up the other side now, doing a 1/4 inch seam. Okay, then I'm going to take them each and just cut them. Just using the little cutter on my machine. And then the first one has its long strings that I cut off. And then we're going to go press them all open again. So we'll set the seam, and then we'll open it up and press to the dark. So now we are going to go back and cut our squares. Okay, so let's go ahead and line up all of our 4 squares. So this is when I use the 10-inch ruler. As you can see right here, there's a line that goes straight down the center. And I take that and I line it up with the point of my stretch periwinkle. Now down here at the bottom, I'm going to put the tail. Okay, so, and you know what, just so I can show you, just on one. And if you are a perfectionist, you may want to do one at a time to make sure that all of them are all exactly lined up. So you've got the point right there, and then on this side, you've got the line going straight all the way down through the tail. Okay, so then you're going to take and you're going to turn your mat, hold on to the ruler, and you're going to straight along the edge. And you're just going to keep rotating your mat around, and you're cutting all along your 10-inch ruler. Okay, so this is how you get your perfect square. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do all 4 of them, lining them up with the top of the point and the bottom of the point. Now we're going to take our 4 squares and we're going to, the way I'm going to do them is I'm going to do them, let's see, every other one. I'm going to put the points together. Okay, so that is what our star is going to look like. I like pulling out a little samplers. This is a baby quilt that I'm working on. It's a stretched periwinkle. And you can see that I have 4 of the stars that are sewn together. And I'm just going to do a 5-inch border around it to finish it off. So that is going to be a fun one to finish off too. And I can look down at the one I'm working on right now to make sure I have put it together correctly. And yep, it looks right. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew this one to this one and that one to that one. And then I'll sew the 2 rows together after that. Okay, now that we have our 4 pieces, we're going to go ahead and take them and fold them over on each other and pin them. And we want to be careful, we want these pieces right here. I pinned these together first, so I really want them to hook in together so that they'll look nice. So I have like 2 to 3 pins. Okay, so we've got that set. And then we'll pin this together again. We're hooking these up so they fit nicely together. Okay, so let's go sew them up and we'll come back. Okay, we'll set the seam. Just go over the seams one more time, make sure that they're going the right direction. Now we're going to go pin the top to the bottom of the star. Okay, so now we have the 2 pieces. We're going to fold them over and we're going to sandwich these together. You can see this side is going this way and the other one is going the other direction. That's exactly how you want it. I like putting pins on both sides to help them stay where they're supposed to be. And then I'm lining up the next part of the star. And then I'm also pinning up here at the end. So those are all the major points where we are lining them up. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and sew it all together. Once your star is all sewn together, we're going to go over and press it open. Okay, so we're going to set the seam. I always like coming back after I've sewn my star together and just hold it up, and wow, you can see how fast and easy this quilt can come together with large squares. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to do the quilt as you go method. So as you can see here, this is 19.5 inches by 19.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my batting 21 by 21. Once you have this cut, then go ahead and get your quilt square and center it on top of it. So this is when you want to pull out either your straight pins or safety pins. I prefer using my quilting safety pins, and so I'm going to get those. So I'm going to be quilting this the way I would for teaching beginners. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pin in each of the corners on the inside. So I'm going to come in a ways because I'm going to be quilting both on the inside of the star, and for each of the little stretch periwinkles, each leg of the star, I'll be sewing on the inside, and then I will be sewing along the whole entire outside. Okay, so I want to pin approximately, so I want to pin where I'm not going to run over any of the safety pins. So I have to think and keep in mind where I'm going to be sewing. Starting at the center, and then I'm going to spread it out. I'm also going to be pinning on the red part on the outside of the star. So you just keep doing this in each section of your star. So once I've done this one, I like doing the opposite side to help it be more stationary. This might be a little too close, we'll see. I think I'm going to move it. Okay, I've got it pinned for about as much as I'm going to do. So now what I'm going to do, I've decided I'm going to use my white thread, and I'm going to go ahead and quilt. For quilting, we're going to do a process called stitch next to the ditch. So right here along your seam is considered the ditch, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to put our presser foot next to the edge of the star, and so we're going to sew right along the edge. If you keep your foot right along it, you're going to have a straight line, okay? Now the key for this is that you always need to make sure that you, when you do it, that as you turn, that you are keeping the same distance around every single side as you go, okay? So you can either start on the inside and do the inside, or you can start on the outside. So I'm going to start, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start right in the center. If you work from the center out, you're going to have more of an even quilting. So I'm going to start right here in the center, and I'm going to go along the center of each one, and then I'll start on the diagonal, and then I'll sew along here, and then I'll go on the next diagonal, and then the next diagonal. Then when I'm done with the 4 center pieces, then I will go along the whole entire outside. So when you're quilting, you usually are working with large pieces, and you need to take the edge, and if you need to, just roll it in a tiny bit. So where this is a smaller piece, I don't have to roll it too much, which is really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and get my thread out of the way. Okay, so like I said, so this is going to be where my edge is. I'm going to keep my foot right next to the edge of my star. Okay? When I'm doing it, I'm stretching it apart. I want it to be as tight as possible. I'm going to stop. I'm going to try and make it so that when I turn, I will have my foot right next to the edge one more time, so that I will have a straight line. So you can see that I'm going to have to unroll my quilt here, and I'm pulling it apart, stretching it so it's tight. So now I have to roll the other side. You can see my little roll right there. Get it all lined up. And then I have to roll in the other side once I turn. So this time I'm going to drive over my thing and just go straight onto the next leg of the star. Take it and we're going to roll it and then stick it inside and turn it so that it's straight. So here we have the side of the foot is going to be straight as we go down. Sometimes if you end up going too far, you can do a back stitch, 1 or 2 stitches to try and line it up again so you're straight. back to the beginning, and we're going to trim the strings. If you want to pull them into the bottom, you can. And we need to cut the bottom one. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and trim all the different strings that I have on the bottom now. Okay, so you can see this is the batting, and you can see the little pattern that there is. So if I had done fabric on the back side, then you would have seen this pattern on the back side. But this is a different quilt as you go method that I'm doing this time. So I am only using my batting. Okay, so now we've got that done. We're going to start, I'm going to start in the center again. I'm going to start right here in the center on the outside this time, and this time we're going to go all the way around the outside. I do back stitch a tiny bit, I don't want to come out, and then go. So right at the seam is where I'm stopping, and then I'm turning and then going the other direction. Okay, so I crossed over the line. This is where I began. And now I am just back stitching right in place right here. Okay, so I am all done with my quilting. This is just the first step of quilting that will be happening. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to sew along the very edge. I'm just going to do a little straight stitch right along the very edge of my quilt square. So you need to cut on the bottom too. Trim off my strings. Okay, so I'm going to start right here at the corner. So this is to help keep your quilt square tacked down so that when you are ready to sew the squares together, that your fabric doesn't come up. Okay, so I am going to have to move a few of my pins. They're too close to the edge. So there's little pieces you might have to go over really slow to make sure they sews correctly. So now we're taking out all of the pins. So you're going to keep doing this with each of your squares until you've made as many as you want. To know how many you want to do, you could, as you go, you can measure them out, and you can see if you want to just do a 4 patch for a baby quilt, or maybe you want to do like a 6 patch and just do like a basic lap quilt. You could do a 9 patch, and that will fit about a twin bed. Then you just keep adding more and more to make it bigger and bigger. If you do a 12 patch, you're going to cover a queen bed. Okay, once you have this all ready, you're going to take and line up your quilt square, and you're going to line up 1/4 inch, and you're going to go ahead and trim 1/4 inch around. So here we have our completed stretch periwinkle Christmas star, and we're going to go ahead and take the time, if you're going to make this, and make as many as you need, and meet me back here next time and I will show you how to sew them all together. So thank you for joining me this week on Creating Joy. If you enjoyed this, please take the time to subscribe and click the bell so that you can get a reminder when part 2 comes out.